Hello! Today we'll be discussing the difference between source analysis at GCSE and A-level. Source analysis at A-level requires a more sophisticated approach. You must have a broader understanding of the period and a wider conceptual context. First, let's look at the types of source question that can appear on GCSE and A-level exam papers.
The first GCSE question is asking you to infer from a source. Much of the knowledge can be taken from the source itself. The second question is asking how useful the source is. This requires wider knowledge of context. The GCSE example has a succession of questions that guide the student to build from their initial inference to make a judgment on utility. At A-level, we move away from the assessment of utility and simple terms such as bias and assess the value of the sources to an historian. This is a step towards undergraduate source analysis, where the focus is on historiography and wider context. A wider understanding of historical context should include comprehension of chronology, politics, culture, and further concepts.
We have provided an A-level source question example to work through the extent of assessment that is expected of you. While this is an image source, you may find that your exam board will be giving you written sources, but if this is the case, the same methods of analysis apply. First, you should consider the audience of the source. For example, this source would have been targeting young German girls, encouraging them to join the youth programme, the League of German Maidens. As a result, the source presents a glorified image of the desirable young Aryan woman. Next, the date of the source. This poster was published in 1936, which we know membership to Nazi with youth organisations became compulsory.
Now, accuracy. We know that this image of a liberated woman is not what the Nazis intended for Aryan females. It's not the domesticated role that the Nazis wanted for women or that the League encouraged, so we might question if this is an accurate portrayal of belonging to the organisation. Next, details. There is little particular detail in the source, and it instead makes vague assertions as to what life as part of the organisation was like. Now, the focus of the source. The Nazi authorities were concerned with recruitment to the youth policies mentioned in the question, whereas if you were given a source which was not so directly related to the question, you may want to consider how valuable the source actually is. Next, you need to consider reliability. As this source is a form of government-sponsored propaganda, you need to be cautious of the image it's presenting. However, it can be argued that it is a reliable source for another topic, for example, in reference to the propaganda use as a means of Nazi indoctrination. Now, opinion. You may want to give this greater consideration with a different source, but in this instance there's little opinions surrounding government policy. The same may apply for location.
Next, insight. While the Nazi Party were the administrators of the organisation, you may want to question its value as a source because it lacked an insight from someone who was directly involved in or experienced the organisation, such as a former member. Now, the clarity needs some consideration. Perhaps purposefully, the source is unwilling to reveal much detail of the youth policy. While this may be due to the nature of the source itself, it could suggest the Nazi authorities felt some need to conceal their true intentions for the Aryan female youth. Finally, sponsor. Clearly, the Nazi Party demanded the production of this source, and as a consequence, they heavily influenced the message it conveys.
For this analysis, we have used the acronym ADAD Frolics, which can be easily applied to any source when assessing a source's value.
Learning to analyse sources at this level is a good bridge towards the level of analysis needed at degree, where sources are heavily relied upon for independent research and sources are closely investigated through activities such as Gobbitt's analysis exercises.